Hey everybody, it's John Schwalbish from PolicyViz. Welcome to another Excel tutorial. I don't have a great title for this one, so I'm just going with sticky bubbles because I'm going to show you how to make a good bubble chart in Excel. And you might say to yourself, looking at this chart, well, this isn't really that hard. If I have the X value, Y value, and Z value for the size of this circle, it's really not that hard to do. And I would agree with you, except that notice how the bubbles on the left side of the graph over here go over that zero vertical axis right at that grid line point there. That's not something that will happen in Excel. I'm going to show you what I mean. It's going to cut it off. And so we're going to have to do some little Excel wizardry to get that to work. And here I'm just recreating the famous Hans Rosling graph just with a few countries just to make it a little more manageable. I've got per capita GDP on the x-axis and life expectancy on the y-axis. Let's head over to my data table. You can see I've got my three data sets here, my three columns here of data. I've also got the raw data. So just to be clear, I always try to keep my raw data in my Excel files. That way, maybe I'm doing 2019, but maybe I say, I want to, do 2018, or I, update this and want to do 2020. So whatever I want to do, but I've got all three data sets sitting in here, life expectancy, population, and GDP. And that way, when I go into life expectancy, it's just a little VLOOKUP function that looks over into that file and does all the calculations. Okay, having said that, let's make the chart. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select my data. I can just use the data itself, but let's grab everything. So I have the variable name. So I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go over here to the Scatter Plot button. I'm going to pick Bubble Chart. And here we go. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. There we go. And so now you can see what happens is the bubbles here on the left side, they're big, and so they overlap that zero axis. And I want to start this chart at 0. So let's just do that. The easy way, we right-click on the horizontal axis. We go over here to the bounds. We're going to change this to a 0. I hit return, and that works, except that you can see that this circle is cut off. So how do we make the chart where we have the full circle and it doesn't get cut off like that? We could change the scaling of the bubbles. Okay, so that's like the easy way. So if you select the bubbles in an Excel bubble plot, you can change the scaling. I can make it 90, make it 80. You can see that these aren't, still not small enough. There we go. Get it down. I maybe need to go a little bit more, 35, and that brings it in. But notice how small the bubbles are now, right? Which it's not the end of the world, but maybe I want to have those bubbles big. So let's go back and make those bubbles 100%. And now let's change this chart. I'm going to add a new data series here. And all I'm going to do is put a scatter plot point at each one of these grid lines. And I'm going to add error bars going down and then to the right. And I'm going to make the error bars white. And so they're going to hang over the grid lines, which I can't change. Okay, so what I need to do here is just start this chart, change the axis options back. I don't need negative 20,000. That's a little far. So let's make it negative 10,000. Return. Okay, and now you can see the full circle. But I've got this negative 10,000, which is a little weird, and I've got this grid line here. Now, first thing I can do is I can get rid of this negative 10,000, and I can do that using a number format. So I'm going to go all the way over, formatting my axis into the number drop-down menu, and I'm going to hit Custom. And of course, I'm doing this on my Mac, but this will work on PCs as well, so it's not sensitive to that. Now here, I'm going to set my number format, and I've done some videos on number formats in the past, so check out some other videos. But here, I want to format my positive numbers with commas and zeros at the end. I don't want to do anything for negative numbers, which is the second argument in the number formats. So I'm going to add a semicolon right there. And for zeros, I want them formatted like that as well, just like the positive numbers. When I click add, the negatives go away. Just like that. It's magic. And all this format code is doing, if you can see it down here, is between those two semicolons where they're repeated down there, that's where the negative number format would go. So if I copy the same format right here in between, it should come back and it's formatted as a positive number, which I think I've used in some other videos on this channel. So you can format your negative numbers as positive numbers or just not have them appear at all by leaving that format out. So that's what I'm going to do. So now I've got the chart 0 to 90,000. Okay, that looks good. And I've got the chart going from 0 to 100. That's a little far. I don't need to go all the way. So let's just change this. Let's just zoom in a little bit. We'll sort of follow Rosling's default graph. So 50 to 90. That's probably good. We've got some more spacing here. All right. But how do we get rid of this, basically each little cells here? Well, what I'm going to do is add another bubble plot series. Okay, so I'm going to select my data by right-clicking. I'm going to go into my data source. I'm going to hit add. I'm going to name it. I name all of my series. If you watch any videos on this channel, you know that I like to name all of my series. I'm going to add some X values. They're all going to be on that negative 10,000 line, on that far left vertical grid line. I'm going to change my Y values. And here I've set them up so that they're every 5 to match the grid lines, 50 to 90. And then for the size of the circle, this is just arbitrary. I've just made it 25 just to make it easy so I can see them. All right, now let's zoom out here just a second. You can see I've got dots at every point there on that left vertical grid line. So now what we can do is select, go to chart design at the top here, and go to add chart element and add some error bars. And I'll start with a percentage. It doesn't matter which one you choose. My Excel sometimes has a more option, but sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off, I don't know. So I'm just gonna click percentage. It doesn't matter because I'm just gonna change it anyways. So I'm gonna click that, and you can see we've got some error bars already set up. So I've got the vertical error bars first. So I'm gonna select those. And over here in the formatting, I'm gonna say just go down, right? Because I'm at 90, I'm just gonna go down. No cap, that's that little end piece, I don't need that. Let's make the value 5 because we're going every 5 units, right? So you can see we're sort of setting that up. And now I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna change this line, let's change it to white because I just wanna hide it. And I'll make it thicker. I'll make it, I don't know, 2. It doesn't really matter. The default of the grid lines is 0.75, so I wanna be bigger than that. So that's good. I'm done there. You can see I got rid of that vertical line now. What about the horizontal lines? Well, let's go to format. Let's go to chart area and select my X error bars. So that's going to the right. And I'm going to format them similarly. So I'm going to go plus on this side. I'm going to go no cap. And I'm going to change this. Now, here's where we can make a few decisions. So I'm going to change this to 100% just to start. Because what 100% is going to do, whoop, I need minus because I'm going that way. 100% is going to bring it to 0. That's how Excel works in this case. And if I do the same thing with changing this to white and upping the size to like 2, this is pretty good. Now, if I zoom in all the way, you can see I see just a little bit of that. Now, maybe that doesn't bother you too much. I mean, it really shouldn't. I mean, if it's bothering you too much, then, you know, I don't know. It bothers me. So, you know, you and I we're seeing eye to eye if it bothers you a little bit. So there's a few ways to fix it. I think the easiest way, honestly, is to just change this to a fixed value and make this like 9,900, and maybe that should do it. And if we got that, that's minus, that goes over there. So we just missed part of it. Oop, gotta go to Format tab. So remember this drop down over here. Sometimes it's hard to grab that, so I'm gonna go back over here, change that, there we go. 9,900, yeah, that looks a little bit better. And now I can turn my markers off, hit the paint can, no fill, change the decimals on this number, change that to 0, and I've got my chart. And now I can go in and format the rest of it. I can get my data to look like this if I add a little transparency to the color, add an outline, but you can see here, there's still a chart out here. And so all I did was change the number formats to get that negative 10,000 to disappear and add some vertical and horizontal white error bars so they sit on top of the grid lines. And now you can have your chart, your bubbles fit on the chart without having them cut off on that vertical axis. So a little bit of a hack to get that to work, but I think it's really the only way to do it in Excel, aside from sort of taking it out of Excel and popping it into another tool and sort of, you know, doing some manual work. So hopefully this will work. Hopefully you can use this in your own work. Again, all you're doing is adding a new scatter plot series where the X position is where you want it along the horizontal position. The Y position is equal to the grid lines. The Z, the size of the bubble, doesn't matter at all, just for show, and then you add those error bars. So I hope this was helpful. Please check out other videos on this channel. Be sure to subscribe and check out policyviz.com for more ways to visualize your data.